Let's talk about Fear Street. It's been a long day back at the office, and I just want to talk about Fear Street and R.L. Stine and profess my love for all things 90s horror. I enjoyed the Fear Street series on Netflix so much. I think it's a perfect summer film, and I look at all of them as one film, even though they're three separate films, but the story is told over the three films, and I think it's really hard to rank each of them individually because they're all connected. Netflix released 3 Fear Street films back to back in July, and the Fear Street films are derived from the R.L. Stine book series of the same name. Now, that book series was hugely popular for young adults, and if you don't know, R.L. Stine is also the author of the best-selling Goosebumps series. So the Fear Street series was a little bit darker and a little bit campier at times, and there was murder. These kids dealt with drugs. They had a lot of adult situations and troubles to deal with. Their parents were non-existent. There was just a lot of layers to the Fear Street series, and I was excited to see them play out over the course of 3 films. All 3 films are directed by Leigh Janiak, I think that's how you say it. She's also the director of Honeymoon, which is an incredible indie horror about 2 newlyweds who are spending their honeymoon in a lakeside cabin, and things go terribly wrong. I highly recommend that film. So when I heard that she was behind these films, I was really excited, and I was also really excited that she got to direct all 3 of them. So it really did feel like a cohesive series. And also, fun fact, Janiak is married to one of the Duffer brothers, who also is behind Stranger Things. So if you see that they seem similar in tone, and there's also actors from Stranger Things, that might explain why. So the trilogy kicks off with Fear Street 1994. This follows a group of friends who have to fend off a evil entity in order to save one of their friends. And this evil force has plagued the town of Shadyside for centuries. The highlight of this film for me was this very Scream-like opening. It was definitely an homage to Scream, which was hugely popular in the late 90s. We open with Maya Hawke, who is best known for playing on a character on Stranger Things. Audiences who are unfamiliar or familiar with her work might think, oh, she's a main character in this. Nothing, you know, we're gonna follow her character. Nope. They pull the whole Drew Barrymore Scream opening, and they kill off Maya Hawke in the beginning, and it's definite, like, they have the whole moment where the killer comes up behind her like Ghostface and stabs her. That was beautiful. That whole sequence, I loved it. First of all, I love that it opened in the mall at Dalton, or was it Walden Books? I miss those bookstores so much. And I geeked out because they open up with one of the Fear Street books. Yeah, they open up with this cover, which is beautiful. That's one thing I loved about the Fear Street books, is the covers. And the posters for Fear Street captured those, everything. I just love it. I love the font. So anyway, back to 1994. So that whole sequence, I loved it. And then we switched to the characters that we're actually going to follow in this story. They live in Shadyside. This murder happened at the Shadyside Mall, and we're seeing the repercussions from that. And there's a relationship between 2 girls that is kind of rocky and a little bit toxic, and that's who we're supposed to care about. The lead character, her name is Dina in the series. She's a little rough around the edges, and she's a little abusive, or yeah, she's a little abusive and toxic to her ex-partner, who is a girl named Sam, who has decided to move on to another relationship with a boy. And there's just some weird moments between these 2, and I felt very uncomfortable rooting for Dina. I don't know if this can be chalked up to she's a teenager. Teenagers don't think clearly. They are toxic in a lot of ways, so I think that she does grow over the course of the 3 films, but it's really hard to connect with her in the beginning. But she has a little brother who I think is adorable. He reminds me of Ben from It, and a mix between Ben and Mike, because he's the one who knows about all the history behind Shadyside. He's the one that tells them, oh, there's a witch, there's a curse. He goes into all the details. And Dina's best friends are Kate and Simon, and they are the best characters in the first installment in my opinion, they provide the comic relief. They just feel real, and there are some shocking twists in this. I watched this film with my two nieces, and the whole bread slicing scene shocked us all because we didn't expect it. We didn't think it would happen to the character that it happens to, because for the whole most of the movie the main characters were safe, and then when that happens it killed off one of the main characters. You now know no one is safe. So I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was well done, and it was sad. I didn't like how the two main characters reacted to their two best friends and love interest being killed off like that. It's almost like they didn't react. And then we move into part 2, which is 1978. 1978 is my favorite of the series. This is definitely an homage to the Friday the 13th films. It takes place at Camp Nightwing, which is a camp that is in the Fear Street series. It's actually featured in Lights Out, which I just actually read. It doesn't have a lot in common with the book aside that it's set in the summer camp, and there are two camp counselors that used to be friends and now they're not. 1978 follows a whole group of characters. One is Ziggy, who is played by Sadie Sink from Stranger Things, and she nails it. She knocks it out of the park with this. She plays a character that is similar to her character in Stranger Things, Max. She's a girl from the wrong side of the tracks. She is kind of rough around the edges. She is known as the weird girl because she doesn't fit in with everybody else, because she doesn't conform. She's kind of doing her own thing. She doesn't care, and she's a little rebellious. So that gets her in trouble with the other campers, and her sister, her older sister, Cindy, is more of the good girl, or she's trying to present herself as the good girl, and there's a lot of tension between them because Ziggy thinks Cindy is not being her true self. And then we have Alice, the other camp counselor, who was once previously Cindy's best friend, and there was something that happened between them, so there's a lot of tension between them, and I loved that whole dynamic. Alice is my favorite. I thought she was such a badass. She was so cool, and she's the type of friend that I'd want. Even though she was kind of mean to Cindy, you could tell it was coming from a place of hurt. She really missed her friend, and she wanted her back, and she wanted her to apologize for the way she treated her. Also, Alice is smart as hell. She's the one who finds the map. She leads them to this underground lair, sort of, which is when things go crazy. Once they are underground, Cindy's boyfriend gets possessed from the curse of Stine Fear, and he turns into this like maniac that is very much like Jason from the Friday the 13th series, and he starts killing off campers one by one. This one I saw people complain was slow and boring and didn't have a lot going on, but I felt like this storyline was the most well put together. I found the characters to be way more interesting and likable, and I actually cared about them. I cared about the girls the most. There weren't as many inventive kills in this one, but I thought the story was better, and it was my favorite. Also, the music. Music in 1994 is great, but the music in the 70s, I love the 70s music. So I was into the 70s music. It had that perfect summer vibe, and it will leave you like, or it left me, the ending left me very emotional because it's really about the relationship between the two sisters, and you're really rooting for them, and just the way it ends, it's heartbroken. Like Cindy, the older sister, she goes through so much growth, and she apologizes, and she has a lot of self-awareness towards the end, and she basically she sacrifices herself for her little sister, and in her final dying breaths she sees her sister get killed, and that's how she dies. She dies knowing her sister gets killed, but then we all know as the audience that Ziggy is brought back to life. And then the next and final installment is Fear Street 1666, which shows us Stine Fear's story, and that's how we learn about everything that has to do with the curse. I believe that this all takes from the Fear Street saga, which starts with the betrayal, which I actually just read and loved. This one is so good. It goes through where the start of the curse between the goods and the fears, but I think they switch things a bit. I believe that the goods are good, or I mean, they're both pretty shitty families, but the curse starts with the Goods being falsely accused of being a witch and burned at the stake, and in the movie it's different. So the actress who plays Dina takes over Sarah Fear's body, or she's transported back into this time to see what happened to Sarah Fear. Sarah Fear, it's a similar situation. Sarah Fear had a relationship with another woman in the village, and somebody learns of that and she gets accused of witchcraft. There's a lot of interesting components. I personally didn't enjoy the whole 1666 timepiece, but I thought it was interesting and sad to see what happened to Sarah Fear and to learn how brave she was and how she was wrongly accused and she was basically betrayed by someone she really trusted. But I was more excited to get back into the current time frame of 1994, which is what they do in the third movie. And we learned that the sheriff is a good, and the Goods are responsible for the curse. We're transported back into the 1994 period in the last half of the third film, which I love. That's where it kicked back up for me. And the kids, they team up with Ziggy as an adult and this other guy who has been betrayed or kind of wronged by the police in Shadyside. They team up and they devise a plan to kill Nick Good and stop the curse. So they go to the mall, and the whole final sequence is in the mall, which I think was perfect, and we get like a battle royale of monsters. It felt very much like Cabin in the Woods to me when we had this brief amazing moment between all the monsters just killing each other. It was awesome, and then it was taken away. I would have loved to have more of that, but I love when kids band together and create like booby traps. That's so 80s and 90s horror. Like, why do all these kids know how to make booby traps so well? So I loved that whole thing, and I was very nervous. I thought, like, there was that sense of danger. You didn't know who was gonna win, who was gonna die, but good prevails, and it seems like all is right in the world. But I have a feeling that these films are gonna do well, and they're hopefully gonna give us more. But yeah, the MVPs of this series for me, Kate and Simon, they're both loyal friends, smart in their own ways. They're very driven in their own ways, and yeah, they're just great friends, and I was sad to see them go. And Alice and Cindy, whew, I loved them. Alice in particular, because she just is the type of person I want to be in life, and she was just so confident and sure of herself. She fought for what she believed in, what she wanted, and I was sad to see her die. I thought it was interesting that they had LGBTQ rep in this. I wish that it wouldn't have been so toxic in the beginning, but I don't know, maybe that's life. Like, teenagers are just assholes. Overall, I really loved this series, and if you are interested in picking up the Fear Street books after this, start anywhere. You don't have to start in any particular place, but if you did want to start in any particular order, I would start with the Fear Street saga, because that gives you the whole curse and history of the town. Lights Out has the Camp Nightwing location, but really you can start anywhere. Other people who are super into Fear Street that you should definitely go watch is Cameron Chaney, the Library Macabre. He has amazing Fear Street blogs and an amazing Fear Street collection that I want to steal. So I would recommend go checking him out for Fear Street stuff if you're itching for more. I loved it. I thought these films were shockingly dark, shockingly violent. They didn't dumb them down. They didn't make it for kids. I was a little upset we didn't actually get to Fear Street. We saw a sign that was Fear, F-I-E-R, which is Sarah Fear's last name, but we didn't actually get Fear Street. That was like one complaint I had, but overall it was a blast. I really enjoyed it, and I'd love to know what you thought of it. Did you have fun? Which one was your favorite? Have you read the books? Are you planning on reading the books? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to chat, learn more, and yeah, please hit subscribe if you want more stuff like this from me, and I'll leave all my socials so we can connect on there as well. And I hope you have a fucking great day, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks. Bye.